Happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this reading, I'm going to be doing some quick little love notes from your person. This is going to be a message cards only reading, and there are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the red glass heart. Group 2 is the rose quartz heart. And group 3 is the red Jasper heart. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and fill whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection, and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead, which I do recommend using so that you can skip over me shuffling cards in between groups to clear the energy of the group I've just read for and tap into the energy of the group I'm about to read for. So again, I'll give you a minute. Please use the timestamps, and we'll get into your reading. Hi, Group 1. You chose the red glass heart. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your person want you to know right now from their higher self? Okay, and they say, I am finding the courage to reach out. Please respond when I do. So this is a timeless reading. Whenever you find these messages, just take them as they resonate. But at the time I'm recording this and will release this reading, it will be Valentine's Day. So some of you may have already heard from this person today. You may still hear from them. I'm on the West Coast of the United States. So by the time you guys are seeing this, wherever you are in the world, there may or may not be very much time left in the actual day of Valentine's Day, but you may nevertheless still hear from this person before the midnight hour. This can talk about these thoughts and these plans as far as even sort of in the immediate future reaching out, that they're thinking very heavily of you at this time. They may have been spying on you, looking you up online, feeling into the situation energetically to see, are you available? Would you be receptive to them? A little bit of fear and hesitation that might be holding them back. It feels like something that they've been wanting to do for quite some time, to either set the record straight with you, maybe offer some kind of olive branch or apology So, don't be surprised if you hear from this person, and if you don't, it feels that, they're sending you love from afar. Nevertheless, you're heavily on their mind at this time and on this day in particular. And so it might be that all they are able to really give, depending on circumstances and a little bit of fears that they're working through, is that kind of energetic hug and kiss from afar. And they also say, I want to again be the reason you laugh and smile. So this could be something where they're wanting to resume the light-hearted energy that you once shared between the two of you, the heaviness, the distance, the silence, any kind of miscommunication that has happened in the past, anything that they may have said kind of in the heat of anger, very impulsively in the past. There's a lot of regret with that, a desire to turn the page in the situation, to reconcile, to begin again, move towards simpler times, and really deliver that apology or that communication or those words or affirmations of love that you've been longing to hear for quite some time, and that they've also really been longing to tell you for quite a while. And they also say, I know we're twin flames, so that can be a confirmation for you if you're in sort of a runner-chaser dynamic with somebody, a deep soul connection, deep soul bond. That term twin flame can be interchangeable with a soulmate, a past life connection. Even if none of those titles resonate, this definitely speaks to, the very unique connection that you and this individual share. They feel you across the distance. They feel you within them, within their own energy. And as much as your paths may have sort of deviated for a period of time, you've needed to go your own way. There's been wedges, barriers, obstacles, and fears that have been blocking sort of the forward progress, forward momentum of the situation. You've nonetheless been weighing heavily on their mind and on their thoughts. They're learning a lot from you, even just energetically. This also feels to really tie into with sort of this energy of wanting to circle back around to kind of smooth out any difficulties you faced in the past, that this person may be sort of leaning into or even evolving beyond sort of a heavy or dark period in their own personal ascension and spiritual journey, as much as you've really been activated and opened in a lot of ways energetically and in terms of your perceptions, your ideas about connections between people, ideas about spirituality, energy, even concepts about twin flames and soulmates. It feels to be very mirrored energy that maybe in their own unique way, it might not be the exact same path that you are walking, but this person has been fundamentally changed by the experience of you, by knowing you, or even coming into contact with you, no matter how brief or deep that sort of contact with one another has been in the past, no matter what that relationship has looked like, however long-term or short-term it was. You've made a profound impact upon them in the same way that they have made a profound impact upon you. They also say, no time can heal the hurt in my heart. I just learned to accept that you can never be replaced. So you are, sorry about the sunshine, the glare, the light. Let me try to hold this card down here so you can see it if you are following along on the screen. But this is definitely talking about that this is not an out of sight, out of mind connection. You are weighing heavily on this person's mind and in their heart. This is very much companion energy through a process of personal ascension and transformation. The two of you, although you've been walking kind of different paths, parallel paths, it feels like nonetheless from the higher self you have always been deeply connected with one another. And this may have been something that they were very resistant to for a while, still in a lot of ways, perhaps being barricaded by fear, especially with that energy of wanting to reach out, and maybe all they are willing or able to do at this point is just sending you love from afar. Nevertheless, there's a closeness that they feel. There's a desire to move closer towards you in whatever ways that they can. Kind of an approach to wanting to disconnect completely, wanting to extinguish that energetic bond. It feels that this person's turned a corner in some way. And they're almost grateful for the fact that your energy has perpetually been with them to a greater or lesser degree through some ups and downs, through some kind of personal darkness, dark night of the soul, maybe some tower moments that they've gone through. They've felt a lot of energetic support from you, almost as if kind of calling out to you in the distance in their darkest hour. And they feel you surrounding them. They feel you infusing them with that courage and that strength and that inspiration and that love to keep persevering, despite the obstacles or odds they may have been facing or are currently facing internally or externally. And they also say, I forgive myself, for every day my eternal spirit is set free. So this person may have been working through, some toxic kind of trends or tendencies within themselves, limiting belief systems, patterns of behavior, some choices that they have made in the past, actions that they've taken in the past as far as this connection, other circumstances in their life, that heavy lifting of self-forgiveness, which is often overlooked as a crucial component of the self-healing journey, is learning to really come to terms with the version of ourselves that, we were operating at when maybe the best decisions weren't made, or we allowed certain circumstances into our experience, maybe for longer than they should have been because of some void or deficiency or sense of lack, a perception of lack within ourselves. And so moving beyond those things, doing better, raising that bar, raising that standard, it does also come with the necessity to kind of recognize where we were at a particular stage in our journey, releasing that version of ourselves with love in order to move forward into the evolution of who we are meant to become. And so this feels like a key element of sort of the dark night of the soul that this person has been in recently, or maybe even kind of a long-term phase. This may have been a very difficult process. This could have been a very stubborn person, or just, they were not as receptive to awakening, to changing, to breaking free from some patterns. This may have required extreme divine intervention in order to really shake them loose from some things that they were being very resistant to moving on from, transcending, or letting go from. And so part of that is almost this idea of introspecting, but then also in retrospect, having to look back over a series of choices, tendencies, and patterns within their life, wounds they had been holding inside that may have even sabotaged the experience between the two of you. And so forgiveness of themselves feels to be something they're working on. In a lot of ways, they've self-mastered, but they still have some more work to do in that capacity. And that's almost a key or like a flagstone on the path that may lead them back towards you, either in the immediate future or a little further on the horizon. And they also say, I will never forget how you touched my life. I had to pick myself up and reshape as this new me. So again, this confirmation here of a profound spiritual awakening that this person has gone through that may look very different from your profound spiritual awakening, what has been sort of stirred and activated within you, but nevertheless, you have made a profound impact upon them. They have been unable to forget you. It's as if you mark kind of this phase, this before and after phase in their life, in their existence, no matter how brief or how deep and long-term the connection between you was in the past. You have definitely changed and reshaped something within them. A path they were previously walking, it no longer resonates, and it feels like they've been in this process of trying to discover themselves, trying to find who they are on the other side of this profound activation that has happened within this spiritual journey they may now find themselves on, this widened perception that they may have of who they are, what they had been settling for in their life, what they had kind of choices they'd made, actions, and sort of the resulting consequences, what they were really magnetizing in, what they've been pushing away. This is somebody who's been going through a multi-layer, multi-level process of metamorphosis. They still may be in that cocoon phase, and this idea of wanting to reach out can again kind of tie into that idea of calling to you in their darkest hour, that they might not necessarily be at that place of preparedness within themselves, still battling some fears, or again, that idea of divine intervention may be keeping them a bit cloistered from you. It's not the time to reach out. It's not the time to emerge from that cocoon. But it's almost bringing forth this energy, and I'm hearing the phrase springtime is coming. So that can really speak about a blossoming, a reemergence, again, a timeless reading. So whenever you find these messages and they resonate, take them as applicable. But in real time, at the time that I am recording this and will release this, we are about 5 weeks away from the official start of spring, March 21st. So that's right around the corner. And this can really speak to an imminent energy, a lot of changes within this person, a corner they are getting ready to turn within themselves that may lead them to that courageous movement towards you, breaking free of some kind of pattern, a new version of themselves that they are stepping forth with in a bolder fashion into, their 3D reality that can definitely help to sort of equip them and provide them with the momentum and the motivation to move back towards you with an apology, in a fresh energy and kind of a changed stance with the perspective that this time alone, this time inside, this time introspecting and metamorphosizing has really afforded them. And they also say, can you forgive me for running away? So this really ties into the idea of a deeply triggering, deeply activating connection that it feels is very mutually experienced between the two of you. Again, with that idea of twin flames or soulmates or counterparts, that, as much as this was very triggering for them, it was most likely very triggering for you as well. However, their, reaction, their sort of approach to this may have been very different from how you dealt with things, but hindsight has really gifted them the ability to recognize in a lot of ways, and it feels like for a lot of you to chisel away at some very deep core wounds and patterns within them that may have made them very fearful of romance, very kind of fearful of commitment, fear of facing things that were maybe mirrored to them through you, in terms of areas of the shadow that needed to be addressed, even greatest potential and kind of this version of themselves that they are in the process of stepping into that really contradicted maybe even some wounds or deficiencies they'd been holding inside, self-esteem issues that they may have even tried to overcompensate for with, kind of this dramatic egoism, or just focusing very much on the material reality rather than kind of tending to this emotional body, tending to wounds within themselves, things they had been harboring for quite some time. And this is really, again, speaking to this idea of turning a corner in some manner in their own personal healing journey, which is equipping them to bring something forth to you, a different vibration, a different way of exchanging than they had in the past. And they also say, I want to build a life with you. So this is forward momentum, thinking of the future, a desire to repair the connection, to bring forth answers, to bring forth maybe for some of you closure or clarity. There's a recognition that how they have behaved in this situation up to this point in time, which feels to be part of that self-forgiveness work that they are endeavoring as well, is understanding that they were operating with only the tools and kind of level of consciousness and perception that they had available to them at the time. But as they are sort of building a new version of themselves within that kind of cocoon energy, as this ripples out into the life around them, the life they are participating in, co-creating with the universe, with that is also this desire to, build a bridge between the two of you in this distance, to close that gap, to bring forth more of a loving vibration, more of a vibration of certainty. If this was someone that was very fearful and again ran before, they're working up the courage to come towards you with something more solid, stable, and reliable. And they also say, every day I think about contacting you. So that's a great kind of closing message here. It ties in with the first one. They're working up the courage to reach out to you. This is weighing heavily on their mind. So for a lot of you, you may hear something about this person. It may just be something small, kind of like a little olive branch, something very casual. This can even tie into like telepathy, something that comes through in a dream, something that comes through in a download, even that comes through in music, through a song, feeling their energy around you. It's just whatever they're able to give at this point in time, that this is, they're wanting to kind of move closer to you. They're wanting to move back in the direction of building upon this connection rather than kind of dismantling things. It may take some time to have that manifest in material reality. For some of you, this just may continue to occur in the energetic realm. Some of you may have moved on. Things may have changed in your life through your own personal transformation where, perhaps that communication that comes forth is just a form of healing for you, a form of closure, some kind of vindication. Something that you find interesting or even something that you're not interested in. But nevertheless, it feels to be part of this person's journey of sort of retracing their steps, making amends in a lot of ways, owning up to the parts of themselves as part of their own sort of self-repairing, restoration into a state of wellness journey, to admit where they had chosen the path of fear rather than the path of love, and to at least make the effort or do what they can to sort of provide healing, a balm, some certainty, some clarity, some kind of explanation to counteract almost the void or the vacancy or the questions that their actions and behavior in the past and maybe in sort of the recent energies between the two of you have really basically that's been the theme. There's a desire to move in the opposite direction of that, to make their way back towards you, to see if this is still salvageable. Can you at least be friends? Can you start to rebuild trust, reconnect, regain the closeness and the intimacy and the electricity that you once both shared in a very palpable way. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got Y, P, S, V, X, H, N, and K. So those are your messages, group 1. I hope they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. I also am running a sale in my Etsy shop now through the end of the month of February. Everything is marked down 15%. So if you've been considering making a purchase, a reading, a piece of jewelry, a dream catcher, now would be definitely a good time to act upon that, as I don't often run sales. I've also launched a second channel here on YouTube. It's called Lady of the Dawn Tarot, and there's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format there is a little different from here. I do pick-a-cards as well as general energy check-ins, but the topics that I cover are related to spirituality, wellness, ascension, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that out, and I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, group 2. You chose the rose quartz heart. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your person want you to know right now from their higher self? Okay, so they say, I know we are twin flames. So if you resonate as a twin flame, or you consider the person you are watching this video for, the person on your mind, if you consider them a soulmate, a counterpart, a deep soul connection, this can be a confirmation of that. Despite what they may have told you in the past, maybe denying this, kind of avoiding this, that could have been very triggering for them, whether the words were spoken or even just kind of as an explanation of their actions in the past to run from you, to lean in very deeply, only to kind of ghost or pull away very suddenly. This can speak about a very igniting connection, a very deep connection on an energetic level, something that has propelled them or catalyzed them into a process of personal awakening and ascension that may be very overwhelming for them, something that they have been resisting, trying to run from, trying to push away, or even numb out in a lot of cases. But beneath all of that, beneath all of the efforts to kind of distract and gloss over and to stuff this down and attempts to extinguish it, nevertheless, the flame that they have for you inside, this spark, this certainty on a soul level that this connection, no matter how long you were with one another, how long you knew one another, what the nature or dynamic looked like between the two of you, that there's something about the spark that they feel for you and what has shifted and really been awakened within them that is different than anyone they have known before. You have had a profound effect upon them. You continue to have a profound effect upon them. And it's something which may be a struggle. This is something that's very easy to or very difficult to wrap their mind around. It may be becoming easier, though, as they are leaning into this reality. And it feels like someone who's been very kind of resistant is learning, at least at this point in time, or has gone through the initial phases, or maybe sort of progressively moving down that path of surrender internally within themselves. They may still be putting up a front, keeping kind of an icy wall between the two of you. But despite appearances, there is this warmth and this certainty and this closeness and sanctuary, this curiosity and this draw and familiarity they feel to you that is unlike anything they've known or experienced or even knew was possible before. This card also came out in group 1, so if you felt drawn to watch that, you may want to do so after this group. There could be additional messages for you there. They also say, I'm sorry I ripped the rug out from under you. So this can really tie into things going really well between the two of you, seemingly that you're both on the same page, and all of a sudden this person ghosts or blocks or abruptly sort of changes direction, pulls away, or tries to dismantle the connection. There's a lot of regret that they have for that. It feels to really have stemmed, not that it's an excuse, but more is just serving at this point as an explanation of kind of their motivations for that, as almost just like a reaction. And I'm hearing it's like touching an electric fence almost, that there was a jolt, there was something that was very unexpected that might have been very alluring to them at first, but then the intensity and magnitude of what was shifting internally within them as a byproduct of this activation at the soul level that's beyond just romance that they have experienced with you. This may have been very overwhelming to them, and they didn't know any other way other than to try to sabotage this, pull away, run in the opposite direction. But sort of the aftermath of that, the effects, that electricity between the two of you has persisted, no matter how far they've tried to run, no matter how long it has been, no matter what they have tried to do, to suppress, to deny, to avoid, to extinguish these feelings. Feels like someone who's run kind of the full gamut of efforts and attempts to disconnect themselves, to kind of stomp out this connection, squash it out within themselves, rationalizing things, leaning into paranoia, leaning into this energy of just kind of confusion and helplessness. And they're now finally moving into this state of personal empowerment, that there's something greater at play here. There's something deep and meaningful about this experience. And while they may have taken it as something very negative, something to be kind of avoided or feared in the past, there's almost this sense here of that they are leaning into it and starting to recognize this very unique, this perpetual, this deep, this what I'm hearing is this out of this world connection between the two of you, as a blessing, almost like a blessing in disguise for a lot of you. And so this is kind of a struggle within them to move into this place, going from resistance to surrender, trying to uncover the meaning of all of this, what it means for the two of you, what this means for themselves as well. And they also say your laugh means the world to me. So they may be reminiscing a lot on kind of the early stages of your connection when things were very lighthearted, before this intensity, before this jolt, before everything became so overwhelming to them, before everything kind of began to unfold. But it almost feels like something where it's no accident. It needed to kind of happen this way. Distance and separation needed to occur between the two of you so that personal growth and healing and ascension work could take place very independently of one another. And in this kind of time apart, this feels like someone who's, again, run that full range of trying to kind of dismiss all of this. It feels like they're leaning into the realm now of starting to try to understand things, trying to see things from a different perspective, a desire to, maybe kind of hold this energy or hold the memory of the experiences with you and the aftermath of everything energetically that's been occurring, everything spiritually that's been occurring. They're trying to hold that and are starting to see it from more of the point of view of a blessing, more from a stance of optimism, not viewing this as something nefarious, something to be feared, something to be avoided, but rather something to be learned, something that adds to the measure of their world, to their existence. They may have almost reached kind of a plateau or some aspect of having acclimated to the ascension energy, what's been really kick-started within them in terms of their personal spiritual journey of evolution, that they've reached a level of self-mastery with that, or at least a little more comfortable, are able to kind of ride those waves, flow with that in a more kind of practical and easy manner at this point in time. And it's something where it's starting to lighten perhaps even how you are experiencing their energy. If there'd been a lot of heaviness, if it had felt very draining, if you'd even been sensing a lot of, kind of animosity emanating from this person, a lot of negativity, fear, avoidance, like a cold energy, this is almost kind of bringing up the idea of the ice starting to melt within themselves. They're starting to kind of recognize and view that, again, there's something more to this connection than meets the eye. And they also say, you showed up for me again and again. The wheel kept spinning, 3 lives, 3 worlds. So this idea of the wheel of fortune, kind of this forward evolution, they've really turned a corner in some way, or starting to kind of loosen the stance of how they are viewing this situation, how they're holding the energy, moving out of the realm of fear, something that may have been just clutched within themselves in the heart space. And this is someone who is, kind of opening their eyes. They're looking around. They're starting to recognize deeper layers, deeper implications in all of this. That idea of 3 lives, 3 worlds, this may have been sort of an extended period of a runner-chaser dynamic. Somebody who comes towards you, things are good for a period of time, there's laughter, there's merriment, you're moving back in that direction of co-creation, only to have them kind of abruptly sort of withdraw or remove themselves again. This may have even been something where you have discontinued your kind of the way you're holding this, any kind of ideas that you may have had about, reconciliation and sort of 3D union with that idea of twin flames and like twin flame separation. And this could have been your willingness almost to just kind of move forward in other ways, to come to peace with all of this, to not participate in these cycles with this person anymore, that has shifted something within them. It's almost that idea of that energetic pressure or heaviness, you moving forward, you kind of shifting your perceptions, you directing your attention elsewhere, to working on self, to seeing the blessings out of this situation, how you can use this energy to sort of fuel and foster your own personal growth and development. This is something that could have represented that paradigm shift for them. All of a sudden, that runner-chaser dynamic, when you discontinue that chase, it takes the pressure off the runner. They have no choice then but to, sense that sort of that void of the pressure that's following them, and to look around, to ask themselves, what was I running from? Search that internal terrain even, or become more aware, to be shown things through their higher self and their intuition, source and their spirit guides and their angels, as far as kind of wounds or deficits within themselves that would have made them run from the potential of, this very intense, very high vibrational possibility of love that could have grown between the two of you. There may have been a lot of kind of toxicity that you were needing to work through individually and between yourselves. This doesn't mean to say that the connection was perfect and that they just, that you're completely blameless in this situation. Not that anybody holds blame, but again, just this idea of needing to kind of move in opposite directions to work on some things within yourselves. The idea of almost like right person, wrong time, that may have been sort of a cycle or a repeating pattern, something within this runner chaser dynamic that has needed to be illuminated for you, as far as what within you is causing you to kind of chase something that keeps evading, that does not want to participate, that is not, following through on promises made with actions. Any kind of changes, any sort of questions in that manner that you have really asked yourself, ways in which you have sought to understand your personal patterns, your own personal kind of core wounds, and things within yourself that are needing to be sort of healed and released. That work on self has shifted something energetically for how this person is experiencing the situation, to where now they're looking at their own patterns. They're starting to kind of mimic that work within themselves, or at least direct their awareness to it, moving out of this stance of just blame and projection and purely just running from the situation, starting to kind of see the deeper layers and the possibilities of why the two of you trigger each other so much, why you've come into one another's lives, what kind of the greater purpose and meaning is of this situation, of everything that's occurred, and the possibility of what might yet grow between you in the future. And they also say, no more frowning or strife. I forget my worries. You're my happiness in our small home in the woods. So you definitely represent this feeling of home, this sanctuary for them. And it's this idea almost of what you had to present to them. Energetically speaking, it is some kind of remedy, it's some kind of medicine, it's some kind of balm that they have needed for these wounds within them, within their core, within their heart, things deeply buried in the subconscious that have almost been crying out into the universe for help, for assistance. Even through the act of triggering, through initiating this kind of runner chaser cycle, it has set the wheel in motion. It has created this velocity that now allows this person to kind of unstick themselves from unconsciously kind of just repeating these patterns. Now they have the ability, thanks to this situation, thanks to what's been really called in, or again sort of orchestrated through the divine, the idea of this connection being more of a blessing than a hindrance as far as they are seeing it right now. They have the eyes to see. They are kind of given this greater perspective of things within themselves that are needing to be tended and healed and sort of come to terms with, rather than just kind of looking outward and placing that blame and being very resistant. This is someone who's starting to take ownership of that, no longer kind of just holding this in a very negative space, something that they're very repelled by or trying to keep at a distance. While they may not be at the point of ready to make physical communication with you, like reach out in a 3D sense, internally they're almost embracing or holding this energy between the two of you in a very different manner. They're utilizing the possibility of this. They're starting to recognize that something within this, even if it's just on an unconscious level, something within this experience and within these feelings is for their greater good. It is pointing the way to aspects within themselves that are needing to be understood on a greater level, are needing to be transcended on a greater level. This is someone who's starting to find that kind of home within themselves, who is beginning that journey of becoming that love they have been seeking outwardly. And they also say, no time can heal the hurt in my heart. I just learned to accept that you can never be replaced. So this card also came up in group 1. So another confirmation, if you felt drawn to that group, there may be messages for you there as well. But this is really talking about, that no matter what has happened, also with that idea of the rug being ripped out from under you, no matter what their conduct, what they said, how kind of uncaring or just unjustified their actions were towards you in the past. That this is not something where they've just skated off into the horizon and never thought about this again. It is weighed very heavily upon them, the situation that has occurred, where you find yourselves now. There's a lot of regret for how they handled this situation. There's a lot of energy of starting to recognize that, this idea of ripping the rug out from under you, ghosting, abruptly just kind of removing themselves from the situation, pushing you away, or maybe being very hurtful in that process, trying to almost repel you from them, rather than admit there's something within them that was being triggered, like wounds of intimacy, fears of commitment, things of that nature. And it's something where, they're starting to really look at that, hold that with a lot of regret, and to recognize a larger pattern at play within their life that is needing to be healed. It's one of the blessings of this very maybe difficult situation between the two of you, is the opportunity to become very honest within them. What is their role and what's taken place? What was that motivation? How can they best be served by this situation by kind of transcending these patterns, and eventually, in time, being able to bring forth something to you by way of remedy, closure, vindication, or even an apology. And they also say, I pull tarot cards and ask about us. So if this person is into divination, maybe something they weren't into before that they are now as a result of kind of a spiritual path that they are on, this can be that confirmation that they're still thinking, they're still trying to intuit, they're still trying to, perceive and uncover what's going on with you. Where are you at in your life? They're still very much energetically fascinated by you, as much as they may have given other indications in a 3D sense. This can also be somebody who's watching pick-a-card readings or tarot readings, about my person, or even if they're familiar with ideas now about twin flames or soulmates, or this was something you'd mentioned to them in the past and they could have just kind of squashed that idea and been very, either non-responsive to it, or maybe that was something very triggering to them. It almost feels that they've sort of secretly turned this corner and they're looking into that. It's resonating with them. There's a sense of certainty and a sense of curiosity where there may have been fear in the past. This can also be somebody who's gotten readings about you, about the situation, about kind of the deeper meanings of this. What's the point of this? Why do they still feel your energy? What's going on in this situation? And they also say, I found fault in petty things while you just accepted me. So again, somebody operating from a place of wounding within. It feels like you mirrored to them the potential of what they could become, as well as kind of the wounds and the things that were standing in the way of the actualization of that potential. And this is someone who may be very resistant to change in general. They had kind of a pattern or a tendency to project blame rather than accept responsibility. This may have been kind of a lifelong struggle with them, or a deeply ingrained pattern, but in some way you helped to really break that pattern. The fact that they are so deeply affected by this energetically still, they've not just been able to dismantle the situation and move forward as they may have with many other people and other situations, projecting blame and then not thinking about it again. With this, it's a situation where it lingers, it weighs heavily on their mind. They've fought the connection long enough, they've fought the situation and their feelings long enough, and they're really starting to see kind of ways in which they misjudged you, misinterpreted, or even were very kind of unfair or unkind to you. And it's a heaviness that they're needing to sort of work their way through, analyzing and understanding their own patterns in order to be able to course correct. And they also say, I'm working on myself. So beautiful confirmation of that idea of deep kind of self-analysis. Some of these individuals may even be starting to get therapy, starting to reach out to community. Maybe this is even community in the form of twin flame community, to go hand in hand sort of with this idea of tarot cards and watching readings about you in the connection. This could be some kind of spiritual community, something religious that they've turned to, something that is really helping them to unpack their personal history, their past, actions that they've taken, actions that they've not taken, their motivations, a desire to become a better version of themselves. This connection has really shaken them. It's really had an impact upon them. And while their own personal metamorphosis, it may be happening very quietly, very much behind the scenes. They may not be at a place of readiness to reach out in the material world. There's change that's happening very quietly and beneath the surface with this person. There's a desire to create different results in their life because they're starting to recognize cause and effect. They're starting to really recognize how a lot of their unconscious wounds and patterns have served as like a hindrance or a blockage to blessings that the universe has offered. Among those blessings is this connection with you. So someone who's really taking the time to do that work, investing in themselves, perhaps for the first time ever. And so this may potentially in the future lead to the possibility of change in the circumstances between you as well. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got Y, P, R, X, A, T, U, and O. So those are your messages, group 2. I hope they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. I'm also running a sale in my Etsy shop now through the end of the month of February. Everything is marked down 15%, so if you've been considering making a purchase, getting a reading, or maybe picking up a piece of jewelry or a dream catcher or sun catcher, now might be a good time to act upon that, as I don't often run sales. I've also launched a second channel here on YouTube. It's called Lady of the Dawn Tarot, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format there is a little different from here. I do pick a cards as well as general energy check-ins, but the subject matters that I cover are related to spirituality, wellness, ascension, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, group 3. You chose the red Jasper heart. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your person want you to know right now from their higher self? Okay, and they say, you're unlike anyone I've ever known. So this connection, this experience, everything that's been stirred within them in terms of feelings they have for you, things that may have shifted energetically, it's something that defies their understanding and their expectations. In a lot of ways, you represent wish fulfillment for this person, and it may have been very overwhelming for them to be confronted with that in the flesh. There's a sense here of this deep bond, this deep sense of knowing between the two of you, almost as if when they met you, they were already so familiar with your energy. Something that might have been kind of spooky or very uncanny for them as well. The idea of kind of some telepathy between the two of you, a sense of almost seeing themselves mirrored in the form of another person, deeply entwined with you at the soul level, which both allures them and fascinates them, and at the same time brings up a lot of fears and a lot of uncertainties about the implications of this, questions as far as the nature of reality, a profound transformational experience that meeting you, experiencing your energy, and continuing to kind of co-create and breathe energetically with you across any distance or silence, what that continues to provide and kind of present to them. It's different from what they've known before. You open a whole new world to them, and it feels very much like a companion energy where through the difficulties you've faced, whatever has not been spoken in the 3D sense between the two of you, or even despite what was said, maybe feelings that were denied, or efforts to dismantle or self-sabotage the connection that the person may have taken in the past out of kind of this fear of motivation and overwhelm. It's something that they still feel deeply grateful to have encountered you in this lifetime. They feel and are kind of curious and perhaps going through, the process of kind of uncovering the mystery of sort of the deeper layers and implications of your journey together, a sense that your story is not completed, that there's still more yet to be discovered, but that the key to that is really through some things they're needing to discover within themselves as well. You may have really opened this person up to ideas about spirituality, a new way of kind of looking at the world, a new perception. They may be watching you on social media, watching from afar, maybe from fake accounts, especially if you have a social media presence, you have a channel, something where you've got followers, you've got subscribers, or even just personal accounts where you're putting out memes, information, just even things about your life related to spirituality and ascension and kind of wellness and self-healing and self-love, all of these topics and these modalities and these ideas and experiences that they're observing this, they're inspired by this, they're curious about this, they're taking note of these things, watching very silently, in the distance, but very aware, very curious, very keenly attuned to what is going on with you energetically. Your transformation, your ascension, it almost kind of sends a clue to this person. It almost rings a bell that directs their attention to you, to kind of uncovering some of the mystery, what they see and learn through you and about you. It helps them in some way to come to a deeper understanding about themselves as well. And I'm hearing the phrase mirrored souls with this card right here. So it's something that you're unlike anyone they've ever known, because you represent parts of themselves that maybe they had denied or they had stuffed down or that were kind of underdeveloped or that they were unaware of within themselves, things relating to psychic gifts, sensitivity, deep empathy, qualities about yourself, this courage, this abundance mindset, ways in which you have really transformed your life, or you're working your way into and have stepped into that best version of self. It's something that motivates them in a way that is unlike other people they've known. Maybe you present quite a contrast to the type of people they usually surround themselves with. In some way, the steps you've taken to better yourself, it's really encouraging this person to take a look at some areas of their own life that are in need of kind of a makeover as well. They also say, I'm sorry I ripped the rug out from under you. So this card came out in group 2. So if you felt drawn to watching that group, you may want to do so. After this one, there could be additional messages there for you. But this can really tie into the idea of kind of this mysterious, this otherworldly, this next level connection between the two of you. It was very overwhelming for this person. to be confronted so deeply and so personally with almost the best of what they could become, and also kind of the things that they were confronted with that stood in the way of the actualization of that potential. And so not that it's an excuse, but it's rather just serving as an explanation of kind of their motivation for, despite, maybe the way the two of you gelled in the past, things just clicked, things were going really well, and then all of a sudden, everything changed. They went silent, they went ghost, they blocked you off, they ran from the situation. The intensity and the nature, it almost feels that it frightened them. They needed some time to kind of process all of this, and that feels to be something that might have just been a coping mechanism for them in the past, kind of a shadow aspect, or just a tendency within them to, need to kind of retreat, to withdraw, getting very emotionally and energetically overwhelmed. Perhaps this is someone who is an empath, but they have not, or when you were last dealing with them, they were not able to identify themselves as such. Perhaps your identification as that, steps you've kind of taken to understand that quality about yourself, to work with that aspect of yourself, boundaries you've set in place, ways in which you've kind of carved out a life for yourself that fits this quality, this deep empathy, this deep energetic sensitivity. This person is again inspired about things they are needing to do within their own kind of situation and within their own experience and how they're moving through the world, in order to kind of come to a greater understanding of some of their motivations. Why, if this situation felt so good, it felt so alluring, there's this sense of home with you, something that's so different than they've experienced with anyone before or since. Why did they sort of choose to move in completely the opposite direction, in what I'm hearing is a sloppy manner for how they handled the situation? A lot of regrets with that, but kind of a process at this point of deep personal curiosity. What within them motivated this? Maybe they're identifying even trends or patterns within themselves of getting very overwhelmed and shutting down, getting very overwhelmed and lashing out to people, saying things from a place of emotion rather than, kind of logic and the higher perspective. All of these things feel to be part of kind of their process of personal transformation at this point in time, that is really been instigated by the situation with you, and that they're getting a lot of inspiration and guidance and insight about your own kind of process of personal transformation and self-mastery. So your work is helping them to work on themselves as well. And they also say, I'm sorry I panicked and let my fears mess things up. So another confirmation of that it wasn't you, it was them. And I know that sounds very cliche, but that is what's coming through here. That, again, everybody has areas within themselves, aspects that they need to work on, especially in deep soul connections. Those can be quite triggering and really point the way to things that we don't always want to recognize within ourselves, or that we've not really been able to see and identify in other circumstances. We've moved through life very oblivious, very unconscious to these things. And it feels like this person is really, they have reflected on what has happened, both the very strong and intense bond they felt with you in the past, and that continues to this day, and questions that they've had of why they really stood in the way of their own blessing, why they sort of put a wedge in this experience. And it's really leading them down the path of some personal fears, some wounds, some deficits, maybe a lack of self-esteem, or almost tendencies to sort of dim their light for a while, that your authenticity, your boldness, qualities about who you are and how you move through the world, it was encouraging parts of them that they've been stuffing down or suppressing to come more to the forefront of who they are presenting and how they are moving through the world. All of this could have really instigated some panic buttons within themselves about masks they've held in place, illusions that they have carefully crafted for themselves and that have been, part of kind of their 3D persona for some time. So there's this yearning for authenticity and growth, and at the same time this fear of almost stepping beyond a comfort zone, or maybe a lot of people that have placed expectations upon them, family, friends, even just society in general. And something about this connection, even just in a very subtle energetic way, encouraged them and still encourages them to assess these things, to step beyond these things, to transcend all which is an illusion, which does not serve their highest good, which they're very drawn to, and at the same time it feels like even still fighting some fears within themselves to just push away, stuff down, hide, and kind of dwell beneath that mask or behind that wall that they have put in place. They also say, I share my passion and my heaven with you. My spirit is truly happy for it. So they still feel deeply connected to you despite the silence, despite what they may have said, despite how things are looking between the two of you at this point in time. You continue to remain this very happy place for them. You inspire them. They are taking note, even just energetically, of transformations that are taking place in your life, ways in which you're stepping more into your best version of self, your most authentic and unapologetic version of self, ways in which you are transcending illusions, tendencies, toxic trends, patterns, relationships, lifestyle choices, all of it. This person is deeply aware of that, maybe literally aware of it as they've been keeping tabs on you, kind of watching silently. You may even be aware of that they have been watching you silently. So it's kind of like both of you know, but this hasn't been a conversation which has taken place in the material world yet. But they're still very much drawn to you, still very much fascinated by you. You inspire them and you help to give them the courage and encouragement to take steps, even if these are small steps, to at least, starting with self-reflection, at least coming to a place of understanding about their patterns, about the nature of their fears, the parameters of that. How does that manifest? How has that stood in the way or obstructed blessings and opportunities that have presented themselves in this connection and in other areas of their life? This is a small steps, baby steps kind of energy, but your personal transformation and change and kind of cultivating and moving toward that best and most abundant horizon for yourself is really motivating, guiding, and assisting this person in doing that as well. They also say, you are my one true love. So they see you as their forever person, and they may definitely be actively working on cutting free from some limiting beliefs, patterns, and behaviors in their life, kind of a stage of preparation, readiness, cleansing, strengthening within themselves. This idea of kind of watching silently, in the sense that the two of you are both aware. You know that they know you both know that you're very much aware of one another. You can feel this person energetically in proximity. They can feel you. These words haven't been spoken. It's this sense of certainty, this sense of knowing, but again, almost this idea of needing to hold back, not wanting to come forth with all of that communication and that declaration yet, because they're still kind of in this process of gestation, metamorphosis, things that need to take place within themselves. Wherever the connection stands right now, as much as things may be dormant, frozen, kind of quiet in a 3D sense, there's a lot that is really evolving and moving and growing and living and breathing, and that has been perpetual and persists to this day between the two of you in the higher realms, energetically speaking. A lot of telepathy that may be going on, kind of like the words that aren't spoken in a direct 3D sense. Energetically, the meaning is conveyed nonetheless in other sort of subtle ways. It's almost the idea of the two of you walking each other home into self, this process that you each are needing to engage in of becoming that love you are seeking, moving into that best version of self, stepping into the authenticity, stepping out from behind the masks and the illusions. And that part of that process of sort of preparedness for what may yet unfold between the two of you in the future is that process of personal preparation and readiness that is needing to take place. Despite what has happened, despite what they may or may not say or do in the future, there is this certainty within them that this connection is very unique, that the two of you are almost braided into each other's energy. You are braided at the soul level, a sense of timelessness with this, that this is no accident. This is no mistake that you've encountered one another. You represent a paradigm shift and almost that point on the horizon that helps to direct the focus out of sort of this energy of a doldrum or any kind of complacency. You help to really awaken one another and to shift and motivate a change in perspective and a change in the way you move through the world. And they also say, through the seasons, our love grows. So again, they still love you. And there's a channeled song that's coming through with this, which I will link in the description box of the video. But it's by REO Speedwagon, and it's Keep On Loving You. And it's kind of this idea of, although they're pretending to not be interested, to not be aware, to be very detached, to be, they're not making their presence known in sort of a physical sense. Nonetheless, they are energetically very much still there, still watching, still aware of you. They still love you. Maybe these words were never spoken outright, or they could have been said, and then this person panicked and ran from you. Nevertheless, this ember of love for you, it wanes and it grows in intensity. It shifts and changes over the course of this dynamic, just as the two of you at sort of the energetic and soul level shift and change through the course of this dynamic. Since you have become aware of one another in this lifetime, this feels to be very activating. This feels very much like a twin flame or a soulmate connection, something that is deeply catalytic for the two of you, something which really propels and sparks the opportunity for a deep personal transformation, an ascension journey, a spiritual journey. This may have kickstarted a spiritual awakening for the both of you. And it's this idea of an evolution, personal evolution, which is taking place, that then creates that opening of possibility in the future for the circumstances between the two of you to evolve beyond where they're at now, for this person to kind of come out from hiding, come out from where they're sort of hiding in the tall grass and just sort of watching you from afar, watching you grow and move and evolve, and to speak some kind of truth. Quietly and behind the scenes, they are also going through their own metamorphosis. Your change at this point in time may be very outward. You may have gone through that internal process, and now you're kind of stepping into that abundance more in the material world, and it feels like they are, still in that gestation, still in that kind of cosmic egg. There's still a lot that's happening, but they are very much aware of you energetically, consciously, deliberately, if they are able to, kind of see what's going on in your life, if they're able to keep tabs on you in that way through social media, for example, people you may know in common, if you're, they're in close proximity to you. This is the kind of energy of somebody who drives by your house, who makes a point to kind of look for you when they are out and about, seeks out information, checks in, still has your photo, still has the conversation saved between the two of you, actively thinks about you throughout their day. But all of this is taking place very quietly, very much in their secret heart, where they may have been careless even in the past in letting third parties or their own fear kind of interfere in the connection. That can be friends, family, even just kind of the perception of what would people think about this, the idea of you're unlike anyone they've ever known, and sort of fears or attachments to appearances, to images now, and that could have really sparked them to sort of run away from the situation. Other people could have put pressure on them to disconnect from you. This is an energy of the certainty that they have that no matter what they're presenting as on the material plane, inside, in their secret heart, they are protecting this connection. They're holding this very close. Personal transformation needs to take place first before they're going to come out in a material sense and make a move towards you, or, attempt to kind of repair the situation. And they also say the idea of forever still freaks me out. So they could be working through some issues as far as a fear of commitment. Maybe this is somebody who had some unresolved heartbreaks or wounds. Maybe this is someone who was divorced, or even just a long-term connection, or even young love, first love, something from their family or upbringing, where, love was inconsistent, affection was inconsistent. They've had a sense of rejection or abandonment. Any of these things could definitely be wounds within them that they're still needing to work through. They're still needing to fight their way through that tendency to kind of run or withdraw, or keep deep intimacy on a spiritual and emotional level at a distance. Some blockages within the heart chakra that are needing to be worked through. And it's the idea of keeping their distance, remaining kind of in this shadowy energy. This feels like someone who's not shy about letting you know energetically their attention is fixed on you. They know that you are aware of them. You know that they are aware of you. It's a lot that's unspoken in this situation, but there's also personal transformation that needs to take place. This physical distance is required at this point in time, so each of you can kind of identify some fears and patterns within, transcend these things. That sets the stage for a different kind of experience moving forward. And they also say, I love you. So again, that idea of you are my one true love. I love you. This is the unshakable truth. As much as there may be things that are needing to change or are changing, a lot of tower moments that they have initiated or that the universe has initiated for them, this core, this truth, this ember, that at times is a roaring flame and other times is, kind of barely discernible. It still exists within them. It breathes. It lives within them. You are a shelter for them, energetically speaking. They keep you in the sanctuary within. They're almost protecting this love from prying eyes or from this process of transformation, which might be quite messy for them. It's this urge to not sort of bring difficulties further into the situation, wanting to sort of complete or at least move to a level where within their personal journey where what they have to bring forth is a lot more consistent than what they had presented in the past. Of course, there are no guarantees, but they understand on some level that there's this kind of this fear or these wounds, these battles they need to face within in order to step into that version that is truly able to provide in a reciprocal and healthy way the love that you have presented to them in the past, and that you are actively working to kind of foster and become within yourself as well. And they also say, I started to fear how much I felt I needed you. So codependency may have been another issue that they were needing to work on in the past, that could still be an issue, and again, in addition to like fears of commitment, fears of intimacy, wounds and heartbreaks. So a lot of shadow work that this person is going through right now, a lot of internal battles that they are fighting. But they are also very fixed. It almost feels like a motivation to step into the best version of themselves, to continue this process, continue leaning into kind of this personal evolution and metamorphosis in order to move out from this energetic realm, move out of just where they are fixated in these unspoken words and these heavy energies and feelings and exchanges between the two of you in an etheric sense, to be able to bring something forth in the material world that doesn't come from a place of leaning on somebody else to be kind of the solution or filling that void. This is somebody who really recognizes and understands the importance of being able to fill their own cup, and until they are able to do that and have something reciprocal to bring you, they will continue to kind of remain at a distance, but fixated on you in such a way that despite what's not spoken, there is a very open awareness of the two of you still very much bonded to each other, still very much present and kind of circling around one another energetically speaking. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got J, M, R, H, T, and D. So those are your messages, group 3. I hope they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. I'm also running a sale in my Etsy shop now through the end of the month of February. Everything is marked down 15%. So if you have been considering getting a reading with me or purchasing a piece of jewelry or a dream catcher or a sun catcher, now would be a good time to act upon that, as I don't often run sales. I've also launched a second channel here on YouTube. It's called Lady of the Dawn Tarot, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format there's a little different from here. I do pick-a-card readings as well as general energy check-ins, but the subject matters that I cover are related to spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out, and I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.